and in this video we're going to talk about spreadsheet estimating. Now if you saw the last video, we talked about on-screen takeoff. You can click over to that and you can see we did a quick takeoff with just a couple of rooms here. Let's go to the takeoff tab. You'll see we've actually got 4 rooms set up with some data in each one. And then we talked about how to export that to a CSV file. Went to File, Export, and it created a CSV file, which I believe I have open somewhere. It's on my other screen. Let me bring it over here. So this was that same data in a CSV that was opened up in Microsoft Excel. So far we've got a takeoff, but it's now time to add dollar values to these items and actually create a bid, which is our final goal. So I developed this spreadsheet about 4 years ago to actually take this on-screen takeoff data and relatively simply apply values to each of the products, multiply out the quantities, and create a quote relatively quickly and easily. Well, as you all know, the cabinetry and woodworking industry is quite complex. There's so many different materials, construction methods. You know, we can take the same product, like a 2-door base cabinet with a drawer, make it out of a white melamine and laminate doors, and it's a pretty simple product, maybe a couple $100. And we can take that exact same product and make it out of cherry plywood with raised panel doors, soft closed drawers, dovetail drawer box, and that same product can cost $1,000. So it's really important to add what I call specification groups, and we'll get into that. So let me show you the actual spreadsheet. It's basically just a template, and it's got, if you look down at the bottom, we've got lots of tabs. OST data is actually for bringing in data from OST, and we'll do that in just a minute. There's a customer list where you can list all the different customers you use. There's a job info tab where we list basic job information, and this is where each room gets applied a specification. This is our quote sheet. If we go to a print preview, you'll see that right now it's pretty much just a blank quote. So let's go ahead and get started with this thing. I'm going to go to the OST data tab, and let's go back to that CSV file. And I'm just going to take this data, highlight it, copy, and I'm going to paste it right in here. Paste. Okay, the first thing you probably noticed was a couple yellow cells that popped over here with some errors, pound NA. So we need to fix that, but also one of the first things we need to do when we put the data in here is go to this data tab and click refresh all. If you see over here on the very right hand side, this is a pivot table, and what it does is it evaluates all the rooms in the job. So when I click refresh all, you'll see all of a sudden this pivot table now is populated with the 4 rooms that we did our takeoff: the pantry, waiting, workrooms, and workstations. So as a matter of fact, I'm actually pretty close. If I go to the quote sheet now, you'll see that it is all populated, except there's 3 lines with errors, and they correspond to those 3 lines on the other sheet. Those errors basically mean in this column right here we have the different products. The first column is the type. It's actually the category of product, and then there's an ID, and this is the actual product. So we've got this base finished end and upper finished end. And what the program does is it goes to the products sheet and it looks these up. And if it doesn't find it, that's when we get these errors. So what it didn't find was this 2-door upper H equals 22. This was something I modified on the fly during that takeoff. So it didn't find this one. Wall paneling was when we added in, and also this countertop PL3, it didn't find that either. So all we need to do is go add those to our product list, and this quote will be ready to send out. Well, one other thing we need to do is go over to the job info and apply specifications. So let's go to our products tab, and the first thing I'm going to do is this 2-door upper with the 22-inch height. And the easiest way to do it is just to copy this description, because when it looks it up, the name has to be exactly the same. And since this is a cabinet and it's very similar to this 2-door upper that we already have, I'm just going to copy and insert copied cells. I just copied the whole row, and I'm just going to change this to H equals 22, and we'll see if that worked. Yeah, it looks like it did. If it didn't, I can just paste the name in there. So again, in the description is okay. I'm just going to go over here to the height and change that from 30 to 22. We're going to leave the pricing level the same. I think we'll be able to change it from 2 adjustable shelves to 1. So the way this product list works is we have the product description in this first column here, the product name, then the description, unit of measure, we have to have that, and then the width, height, and depth, and you'll see later we don't need that if we're not doing material and labor. But here's the pricing method, and there's three different types. We have fixed pricing, which if I put in that this product costs $200, that's what it's going to put in the quote. Cost plus is it will put the cost and then add our markup. So if I'm doing a 50% markup and my cost is $100, then it'll put in $150. So, and then the last one is material and labor. And material and labor goes in and looks up basically all the material to build the cabinet, all labor to build the cabinet, and then it goes up and looks at the pricing of the material and calculates all that out. So to do that, the next column is if you're using fixed price or cost, you put them in these columns. We have an add deduct column, so for any product you can do an add deduct. Maybe that job, for some reason that product, you want to add $50 or deduct $100 or whatever. And there's 4 different markup levels, A, B, C, and D. And if I go to the price list, you can see at the very top, let's scroll up there, here's the different markup levels I have currently set. So you can put whatever you want in there. We also have a yield which calculates for all the sheet products. We know that we're going to calculate the exact square footage of material we need, but we know there's going to be waste, so we have this yield factor in there as well. Let me go back to the products tab, and so we have our markup level, which, by the way, this is also controlled by the customer. So if I go to the customer list, you'll see the customer actually has a price level. So depending on what price level we're using, like right now I think we're using contractor 1, and he's a B. So if I look right now, all the markup levels are set to B. If I go to job info and say, you know what, let's switch this to contractor 2, and I go to my products, and now they're all set to markup level C. Well, you can override that on a product basis. For instance, you might want to charge a different markup on granite than you do cabinets or trim or whatever. So you can do it on a product basis, you can do it on a line-by-line basis, but right now it's set on to link to the customer. The next column over is a labor adjust, and that's simply if you want to add additional labor to the product. And then we have stuff like finished interiors, adjustable shelves. These are what I call the default values for most of your cabinets, like how many adjustable shelves, doors, the dividers, drawers, nailers, toe kicks, stretchers, hinges, hardware, pulls. All this stuff are the default values for each cabinet type. So that's pretty much how the product list works. Looks like we have to add a couple more products here. We need to add this wall paneling. So again, I'll do copy. I'm going to go to the products list. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see I have job-specific items here. Let's go ahead and paste this in there. Wall paneling. I'll put the same thing in the description. And this, I believe we did square footage. So we'll do square feet, and let's just go ahead and do fixed pricing. And I'm going to say I'm going to charge, I don't know, $30 a square foot for that wall paneling. That cleared that error. And at the very bottom we have countertop PL3. So let's copy that, go to our products, and I thought I had countertops in here, but it looks like it's typed a little different. So I'm just going to paste this over top, and hopefully that will work. And it looks like it did. So all of our errors have been cleared. And by the way, this red area is actually a unit conversion. If you watch the last video, you'll notice that I do the cabinets in a linear foot takeoff. Well, on the products, I actually want to calculate the price per cabinet. So this, if we look at a 2-door base cabinet, where is it? Right here. I'll highlight this row. The unit of measure is each, and this cabinet's 32 inches wide, which is default width, 23 deep, and 34.5 high. So since I'm pricing it as an each, let me go back to the sheet. You'll see. Let's find that 2-door base. Here we go. Let's go to the ones in the workroom. There's more. Alright, so on this row right here, you'll see in the workroom there's 15 linear feet of 2-door base cabinets. You'll see here that the price unit of measure is each. The conversion is 32 inches, so it converts that to 5.6 cabinets. Well, we don't like 5.6, so we're going to round it to the nearest whole number, so we'll round it to 6. And then we're going to recalculate the width. So instead of 32, it's going to be 30 inches wide. So what this is going to do is calculate 6 cabinets 30 inches wide. So when I go to my quote sheet, we'll go to the workroom and you'll see, here's our two-door base, and you'll see what we're actually pricing is 6 each, two-door base cabinet, 30 inches wide, 23 deep, 34.5 high, and those cabinets are $188 a piece. Let's go back one more step here. So you'll see this thing's all filled out now. We're at $14,500 for all these products, and they're listed by room. And so here's the pantry, here's the waiting, here's the workroom. You'll notice this column says spec, PLAM. So let's go to job info, and when it put these rooms in here, it added them to this list. So the first 4 rooms are the 4 rooms that are in our job. To the right of that is the specification group for those rooms. So let's go to the workroom 411, and the way these work is PLAM. So over here you'll see the actual specification group. PLAM is the top one. Everything to the right on this row is what is in that group. So for instance, the exterior exposed material is going to be PL1, it's going to be a laminate. The case is going to be white melamine, standard edge banding, a laminate door with standard edge banding, basic melamine cabinet. Very simple. But if we scroll down here, there's one called Cherry. Now Cherry actually uses pre-finished maple plywood. It uses wood veneer edge banding. It's a 5-piece raised panel door, plywood dovetail drawer box, undermount soft close. So this is quite a different specification. So I can simply go to workroom 411 and say, you know what, they want this out of Cherry. Let me go back to the quote sheet now, and you'll see now that the spec list for workroom 411 is Cherry. And we probably jumped up. As a matter of fact, yeah, we went from about whatever it was, about 15,000, and now we're over 20,000. So that made a big difference. Those two-door bases, they were $188 a piece. Now they're $574. So again, that was really quick. I just want to show you real quick that wall paneling. Remember, it's got 130 square feet, and we put $30 a square foot. That was a fixed price, and you'll see here it's fixed. You'll notice on this quote sheet, on each line item to the right, is all the options, and this is a copy of the defaults from that product sheet. You can go here and adjust those anytime you want. So on these two-door uppers right here, instead of 2 adjustable shelves, they want to do 3. I just put a 3 right there, and you'll see that price just jumped up a little bit too. Let's go back and you'll see, I think right now it's $479. If we go back, goes to $466. So just adding that shelf changed the price a little bit. As a matter of fact, on a line-by-line basis, we can change just about anything, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So we've done this quote. You see we can change the specification group for either one. Let's go back and talk about specification groups a little bit. So for this Cherry one, let's say for this job, they don't want a 5-piece raised panel door. They just want a veneer door. Easy enough. I can just click here and change that to wood veneer. So now I go back to the quote sheet. It should be less expensive. Yeah, we're back down to 16.8, so close to 17,000. So a really big difference by changing all those doors from raised panel to just a veneer. Again, you can change these. You can create new ones. You can call these first name here. You can call them whatever you want. So you may not need PLAM 5. You may want one called Oak. So you just put Oak here, and now when I come over here, Oak will be on the list, so I can click Oak, and now it's going to use, well, it's going to use these values, which is PL5. So I would, obviously go in and change these to be, different materials and stuff. So let's go ahead and back out of that. So that's pretty much how the specification groups work. And like I said, right now we apply those on a room-by-room basis, which I think is the best way to do it. Of course, there are certain scenarios where you may have to do it on a cabinet-by-cabinet basis. We can change that on a line-by-line too. So, for instance, maybe this pantry 412 is PLAM, but they have one cabinet in the middle. Maybe it's an island or something that is Cherry. You could go find that one cabinet. And the way we do that is you go to this, let's say this particular line right here. We can go all the way to the end, and there's a copy of the specifications, and we can change it from, and maybe everything is the same, it's just the interior is different. So maybe we change that, and you can change it right here. So, maybe it's a Cherry plywood or something. So let me go back, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how this spreadsheet works. Right to the right here, for each product is a copy of the default values, the number of shelves, the number of doors, all that, and of course you can change that on a line-by-line basis. After the default values, we get into the labor section where I have basically different labor operations: engineering, edge banding, CNC machining, assembly, cleaning, packing, shipping, all that. And those are based on, for instance, CNC machining is based on the number of parts plus the square footage of parts, and formulas in here that calculate that. Of course, you can always change that and set that up for you, but right now I think it works pretty well. The next section is actually the quantities. So it's going to go and figure out how many shelf pins we need, how many hinges we need, how many poles we need. The drawer box index, this is kind of interesting. Basically what it does is, I'll go over to the job info sheet. If we scroll down, here's where you can put the different options for specs, but down here is, depending on the cabinet size, we need to know what drawer slide you'll use. So for each drawer slide, depending on the size of the cabinet, we put what size drawer you'll be using. And the thing is, with a lot of the full extension slides, they are in 2-inch increments, but some of the undermount soft closes, they may become in different sizes, 15, 18, 21. So depending on what type of slide you're using, we need to know which one's going to go in there. So it goes and looks up this index number and figures out which slide will fit in that cabinet. So if we actually change the depth of the cabinet, it will select a different slide. The reason we need to do that is we're going to go actually get the actual price of each slide. And while I'm here, there's another matrix below this one called the materials matrix. Now this one, when we talk about our case materials, if I want to know what material I'm using for the right side of this cabinet, and it's let's say we're doing a laminate job. Well, it depends on whether or not the cabinet's open. If it's open, I might have it laminated on the inside, and I might pre-laminate that, so it might be laminated one side. If it's a finished end and it's open, it can be laminated on both sides. If it's got doors on it and it's not a finished end, it's just going to be white melamine. So to evaluate that, what we've done is I've created this material matrix, and so it has, whether it's behind doors or whether it's an open cabinet, every part, the sides, the bottoms, tops, stretchers, nailers, adjustable shelves, fixed shelves, what material will we use if it's behind doors and there's a right finished end. If it's a right side, it's going to be 1S means it's laminated one side. Case means it's just white melamine, that's just our case material. And 2S would be laminated two sides. So over here, for instance, the upper bottom, we're going to laminate both sides if it's open, because I want the bottom laminated and the inside's open, so I want that laminated. So anyways, that is set up too. So a couple things on the job info sheet. Let's go back to our quote sheet. So that's where this box index, it figures out the drawer box depth and which drawer slide we're using. So here you'll see we're using these full extension slides with the P-lam stuff, and down here with that cherry stuff we were using the undermount soft close. Now some of these cabinets don't have drawers. I don't know if any of them have drawers actually, but if it did, as a matter of fact, here's the quantity of drawer slides. It's all zeros. I don't think we have any drawers in this job, but if we did, that's what slide it would use. And then we get into the actual case parts, and we're going to figure out the square footage of the left sides and the right side, and it's going to figure out which material we're using and go in and calculate all this stuff. We're going to calculate the linear feet of edge banding for the case, and then sum up the totals of the material for each one. We can calculate the weight. There's a density in the price list, so we can figure out how much weight each cabinet will be. We figure out doors, the number of doors. So down here I've got 2 doors, the square footage, the linear feet of edge, and the weight of the doors. Same with drawer fronts. So then we can figure out the total weight of this cabinet. This one's going to be 68 pounds. This one's 120 pounds. So once we get the quantities of everything figured out, then we go look up the prices of everything. So depending on what material we're using, it's going to go to that price list and it's going to look up the actual price of material. So for PL1, you'll see here a case, 81 cents a square feet. That's just for, I guess, the white melamine. And then 338 would be if it's laminated one side, and 635 if it's laminated two sides. So let me go to the price list and we can see if we can find that. And here it is, white melamine, 81 cents a square feet. We go down here to PL1, and over here is, if it's laid up one side, it's 338. Here it's 635. And so this actually takes into account glue, labor, everything to do the laid up material. So let's go back here to our quote sheet. And we were looking at pricing. Oh, I'm on the products tab, no wonder. Alright, so looks at the pricing for everything. For the case, for the doors, drawers, hardware. We look at pricing for everything. So now we have the quantities, we have the price, we multiply those together, we can get our material cost, we can get our material total, and then we can get our labor cost, our labor total. Then we look at our markups, our add deducts, and all that, and we figure out our sell price. Now you might see a lot of errors in here, all these pound values. Those are because those particular lines are using fixed pricing, so they're really not using any of this data. So don't worry about that. If it's using material and labor, we should have a sell price in here. And so let me go back to the beginning. And so by the way, this, for each product, to come up with this price, a lot of calculations. We go through the alphabet about 5 times. We're here to FQ. As a matter of fact, it goes even higher than that. So there's tons of columns. It has about 40 different lookup tables. So there's a lot going on in this spreadsheet. And part of the training I do with this is teach you some of the basic formulas that I use a lot. So for instance, right here, you'll see this VLOOKUP. I use VLOOKUP all the time. And it's actually a really pretty simple formula. It goes and looks at the product and then goes to a table and looks up what price or what material you're using. So that's pretty much the basics of the spreadsheet. These red tabs over here to the right, those are designed to go into Microvellum. If you use Microvellum, we can actually transfer this data directly into that program. Again, the price list is basically a list of all our material prices. Of course, you can go and add and update that to fit your actual, what you pay for stuff. Okay, so let's review. Let's go back to the OST data and kind of take this from the beginning. Again, the idea is, and I talked about a lot of stuff here, but generally I can bring in data from OnScreen Takeoff, paste it in here. Again, every job is going to have a couple products that aren't on my product list, so you always have to add those. But that usually takes a few minutes, and I can click on the job info, apply the specifications. We'll go up here and put the job name in, and we'll just call this demo. We'll call this 123. We'll put in today's date, which I think is the 20th, and let's go to contractor 3. So now if I go to the quote sheet, you'll see at the top it fills in quote demo, it fills in the contractor 3 and their address, it fills in all the line items of everything, and we have a bottom line price. I may want to go in here and put some references, the architectural drawings, stuff like that. And one last thing I wanted to show you is, as I mentioned before, a lot of people don't like to send all this line item information to their customers. So I have this thing here where you can basically turn off the line item pricing, and you have to sort of scroll up and down to refresh it, but you'll see that just hides all this information. But I like it because it still lists the whole scope of work. It lists every room, exactly what you're doing in that room. You know, it says that we got the locks, it says we got the finished ends, all the cabinets. And so contractors I've worked with really like this scope of work, and then all they get is the bottom line price. And so they don't cherry pick and say, well, why is that line, cost so much more than that one? And you've heard all that. So, and now we're ready to print this. And of course, we put you can customize the way this looks with your company logo and stuff. And this is ready to send out. So with a little practice, this spreadsheet is really fast. It's really powerful. It does a lot of calculations and quick. And with a little practice, it's pretty easy to use. So